train, its controls failed and brakes useless, hurtled uncontrollably down the tracks. Seeing people dangerously crossing the rails ahead, the desperate driver leaned out and shouted frantic warnings. Panic erupted among the pedestrians. In the chaos, a woman with her young child stumbled directly onto the tracks, right in the train's path. Frozen by terror, she couldn't understand how to save herself or her child. As the massive engine bore down on them, mere moments from impact, an unbelievable figure suddenly appeared. A lone, unknown creature stepped onto the track between the train and the terrified mother. With impossible strength, raised a single hand and met the charging locomotive head-on. The train shuddered violently, its momentum arrested completely by the single outstretched hand of the figure. As the dust settled slightly, the figure stood unharmed. The woman clutching her child stared in stunned disbelief. It was then she recognized the impossible savior, Mr. Zombie. His age unknown, how long he's been dead. Also unknown, all he remembers is this. One summer day, the world ended in a sudden zombie outbreak. Chaos erupted too fast. He didn't escape in time, one bite and that was it. Since then he wandered, drifting with the undead like part of a senseless mob. Then one day everything changed. Humans returned with guns, missiles, and fire. They didn't just kill zombies. Some were burned as fuel. Others were enslaved, turned into grotesque machines, strapped to generators as living batteries. A constant power source. Zombie never understood why zombies needed to eat humans, nor why humans were so determined to exterminate them. But one truth became clear. If he wanted to survive, he had to become stronger. So that day, Mr. Zombie began a disciplined life. He lifted weights. He ran, swam every day. He downed protein powder 3 meals a day. At night, he did aerobic workouts under the stars. Eventually, Zombie became nearly invincible. But power wasn't enough. He longed for connection. He wanted to be friends with humans. In pursuit of that dream, he once rescued human children from a blazing fire. Another time, he stopped a falling airplane. To ease tensions with mankind, he gathered all zombies in an abandoned city and forbade them from eating humans. Instead, he demanded they eat eggs every day for protein. Yet peace was fragile. While buying eggs at the supermarket, Zombie noticed something troubling. His subordinate Ego had appeared once again on the humans' wanted list. Nearby, 2 reporters were secretly filming. They didn't believe Mr. Zombie, whom they mistook for a masked human, could lift an airplane barehanded. But the next second, jaws dropped as Mr. Zombie lifted a truck with one hand, then jumped straight up, breaking through the atmosphere with it. After orbiting the Earth once, he landed back in his territory. Zombies cheered. 2 young ones nearby asked, "Why didn't you just drive the truck over here?" "I don't have a driver's license." He replied flatly. Inside, boss-level zombies were getting restless. But when zombies stepped through the doors, they immediately snapped to attention in 2 neat rows. He slapped the wanted poster onto Ago's chest. "Ago, what is this? Why are you wanted again?" Ego broke into a cold sweat. He replies, "I can't help myself around humans. Their smell, it's overwhelming. Even though our numbers are growing, we've had to keep moving base to avoid them." Varmint chimed in. "Why not just start a war? My chainsaw's starting to rust." Mr. Zombie was about to lecture them on the terrifying strength of humans when a thunderous roar shook the sky. Above, a military transport aircraft had appeared. Inside, the commanding officer was a dashing young woman. The president aboard watched the screen, deep in thought. 2 subordinates approached. "All systems ready. We can act at any time." The woman tilted her head slightly. In the cargo hold, the aircraft was armed with a nuclear warhead, set to detonate in 20 minutes. Mr. Zombie sensed the danger. Varmint's eyes flashed. He was ready to charge into battle, but Mr. Zombie stopped him. "No, you lose control near humans. First evacuate the others. I'll deal with the humans." Moments later, armored trucks rolled into the area, searching for civilians, preparing for rescue. Then the aircraft's hatch opened, revealing a heavily armed young man standing inside, staring down at the zombie horde. He looked unafraid. "If a boss zombie shows up, I'll cut it down myself elsewhere." A man in a white robe was watching everything unfold on a screen. He says to himself, "Beyonders Academy, so they've sent someone interesting." He smirked and pressed a red button. From the sky, a cage of humans descended and landed in the zombie crowd. The rescue team detected life signs. They advanced carefully, firepower at the ready. "Why won't that zombie die?" A soldier pointed ahead. Their 2 young zombies trembled, shielding themselves. Standing in front of them was Mr. Zombie. The squad leader aimed a rocket launcher. The missile struck, engulfing Mr. Zombie in a fierce explosion. One of the soldiers tells his boss, "That's not a zombie. That's the Beyonder who wears a zombie mask. He's been helping people." As the smoke cleared, Mr. Zombie stood there unharmed, scratching his head in confusion. Inside the aircraft, an officer reported, "Zombie detected, Marshal dispatched to Zone B." A figure leapt from the aircraft 100 meters in the air. The Marshal. Meanwhile, the rescue team continued evacuations. From afar, the man in white smirked. "They're doing better than expected." His green-haired assistant grinned. Under his control, one of the zombies mutated violently, becoming a rampaging abomination. Mr. Zombie sensed it instantly. Just then, the squad leader sprinted toward him. Without warning, he scooped Zombie up and threw him into an armored vehicle. Saving a life comes first. Inside, a girl asked, "Why do you always wear a zombie mask?" Mr. Zombie looked flustered. He didn't know how to answer. Elsewhere, the mutated zombie lifted a bus and hurled it at the rescue team, but the marshal arrived in time, slicing the bus in two with a single strike. The crowd erupted in cheers. "It's the sword marshal from the academy." We're saved, he ordered the civilians evacuated, choosing to fight alone. At the evacuation center, the squad leader asked for updates. Mr. Zombie stood to the side, eyes wide. He recognized the mutant's voice. "Little mine." The girl tried to reassure him, but he had already disappeared. On the battlefield, the mutant zombie screamed in agony. The marshal hesitated, seeing the pain in its eyes, but as it lunged, he drew his blade. With a single crosscut, cracks split across its body, and it shattered into shards. Just as he thought it was over, a new presence arrived. Mr. Zombie. He was already there, next to the fallen mutant. "It's not their fault. Sorry, we can't always control ourselves." The marshal narrowed his eyes, raised his blade, thinking Mr. Zombie was one of them. A moment later, he was stripped and hung on a utility pole. On the aircraft, the short-haired commander noticed the marshal's vital signs were plummeting. Marshal down. The president was stunned. "The civilians haven't all been evacuated. We can't deploy the warhead yet." She gritted her teeth, then blurred into motion. She dove from the military aircraft. Another figure sliced through the sky at blinding speed. It was the commander of the operation, the president herself. With no hesitation, she drew her sword and slashed at Zombie. But the very next second, her white blade shattered on impact. The president's eyes widened in disbelief. Even Zombie seemed more confused than alarmed. The president's gaze trembled slightly. She asked herself, what exactly is this thing made of? Without wasting time, she jumped back several meters, putting distance between herself and Mr. Zombie. Meanwhile, Mr. Zombie, clearly uneasy from the sudden confrontation, muttered in frustration, I already apologized." The president's shock deepened upon hearing him speak. Her mind raced this had to be a mutant or a variant. But a zombie was still a zombie. Without another word, she drew a second sword, this one enchanted, prepared for more powerful foes. Zombie flinched at the gesture. "You wait, listen to me." But the president was already moving, charging at him with incredible speed. Her blade slashed the air but missed. In the blink of an eye, Mr. Zombie had appeared behind her. In response, the president twisted her body upside down midair and mirrored his movement. She unleashed her signature technique. Red blade cleave, spinning a full 360 degrees. A red flash cut across the skyline. Everything touched by the light was sliced clean in two, even the buildings flanking the street. But Zombie simply bent at the waist and dodged it. "You're playing with me," she shouted furiously, launching another assault. Meanwhile, civilians had nearly finished evacuating. The unconscious marshal, who had been knocked out earlier by Zombie, was now being loaded into a vehicle. Up in the military aircraft, the assistant frantically called the president over comms, urging her to retreat immediately. But she didn't respond. She was too deep in battle. In just minutes, one human and one zombie had torn across half the city. Mr. Zombie never counterattacked. He was only dodging, bewildered by the president's aggression. Why is she so set on killing me? Seeing she still couldn't catch him, the president activated her second technique. I-80 Level 2. White steam exploded from her mechanical calves, and in the next second, she blasted forward with devastating speed, instantly appearing behind Zombie and unleashing her strongest move. In the following moment, both of them crashed to the ground. Believing she had finally defeated him, the president contacted the aircraft to request pickup. But just then, the mysterious white-robed man who had remained hidden began to move again. The civilians had all been rescued. But there was still a spy aboard the aircraft. As the crowd cheered, thinking the worst was over, the spy suddenly accessed the nuclear warhead launcher and, without hesitation, pressed the trigger. A moment later, the warhead was released from the military aircraft. The spy was quickly subdued by two others in the cabin, but it was already too late. The warhead was falling fast. When this news was reported, every face on the ground turned pale with fear. The president, horrified, prepared to jump using her mechanical legs, but froze. Her batteries were drained from the fight with Zombie. With no escape and no way to stop it, she stood paralyzed beneath the falling weapon. Then Mr. Zombie appeared in front of her. Before she could react, he grabbed her and spun her around, hurling her into the sky. She landed, perfectly, on the military aircraft's platform. Still stunned, she turned her gaze back to the ground and saw the warhead dropping straight toward the lone figure standing below. Mr. Zombie didn't move. Instead, he dug his heel into the earth and launched himself upward, cracking the ground beneath him. For his people, without hesitation, he flew straight into the path of the nuclear bomb. Just before impact, Zombie reached out a hand as if to catch the warhead, and then flattened it with his palm. Gasps echoed from every corner of the city. The next instant, a deafening boom erupted. A colossal mushroom cloud burst into the sky. Zombie was swallowed whole by flames and smoke. Time slowed. Eventually, the firestorm subsided and the smoke drifted across the ruined cityscape. On board the aircraft, the president stared with wide eyes. Through the haze, a figure limped forward, scratching his head. That made my butt itch. The military commander beside the president exhaled, feeling strangely heavy. "What's wrong, President?" Another officer replied, "She's been fighting zombies all her life, and now one just saved her. How could she be okay with that?" But the assistant still holding the tablet corrected them. "President, you seem to be mistaken. This guy isn't a zombie. According to our data, he's the masked hero that's recently been appearing around the city. He just likes to wear a zombie mask." The president's expression turned stormy. Next day, a ragged figure wandered into the human city. Mr. Zombie quietly slipped into a phone booth and checked in and tell his boss that most of his subordinates had safely evacuated. Relieved, he turned to head home. But every movement he made in the city had already been captured by surveillance. Back at his rental apartment, now clad only in his underwear, Zombie felt uneasy. He had a strong feeling he was being watched. Meanwhile, the president stared in dismay at the nearly naked figure on screen. Later that day, as Zombie was mid-stretch during his usual exercise routine, the door suddenly flew open with a loud crash. The president marched in, flanked by a small team. She pointed around and ordered them to start rearranging the place. Zombie stared, stunned. Before he could speak, she pulled out an admission notice and showed it to him. "We are from the Beyonders Academy. You are hereby admitted. From now on, you're one of us." At her signal, several suited men stepped forward. They grabbed him. Then Mr. Zombie asks, "Wait, what are you doing? Can zombies even go to school?" But the president remained firm. "You're not a zombie, just a man in a mask. That's what we've decided." And just like that, the poor zombie was forcefully enrolled. As protests began, a red-haired girl at the back raised her concern. "President, we're not supposed to recruit people without permission. And besides, the academy dorms are already full." President replied, "Then he'll stay with me." At the dormitory, Mr. Zombie looked utterly out of place. He turned to the president, awkwardly trying to start a conversation. "So, I'm living here now. Does that mean I'm also sleeping here?" The president gave him a sharp glare. "Isn't that obvious? Why? Do you want to sleep with me?" After this, he raised his hand furiously and says, No, that's not what I meant. Though I am curious." President answers, "You'll stay in the guest room." Zombie hesitated, then lowered his voice. "You might be mistaken. I'm actually not human." The president didn't respond. Instead, she reached down and began fiddling with her mechanical leg. Zombie tilted his head in confusion until she removed her another leg entirely. Seeing this, Zombie asks, "What happened to your legs?" She instantly replied, "I cut these off myself." She told him everything. Years ago, a zombie outbreak struck her village. Her parents turned and they bit her legs. To survive, she was forced to amputate both limbs and kill her own parents. Since that day, she vowed, whenever she encountered a zombie, she would kill it on sight. Zombie swallowed hard. and quickly decided to hide the truth. "What were you saying?" she asked. "Huh? Nothing. You must have heard wrong." Changing the subject, Zombie looked around and asked, "So, what exactly is this Beyonders Academy?" The president explained. Over 1,000 years had passed since the first zombie outbreak. To ensure humanity's survival, the Beyonders Academy was founded. Its mission: to train those capable of combating the undead. Mr. Zombie listened silently, realizing just how long he'd been dead. Has it really been 1,000 years? "Be at the academy tomorrow," the president ordered. "Try to run, and we'll consider it suspicious. Also, my name is Violet. Tomorrow, someone named Dawn will give you a tour." Zombie asks, "Dawn? Do I know that human?" She didn't reply this time.